Alright, so what we got here is a 03 srt4. What we got is a damaged e-brake cable on our driver's rear. So we're going to go over what we got to do to get that replaced. So here we go. Alright, so this is where our damage is. Not quite sure what happened here. I don't know if somebody hooked to it when they towed it, or if it got caught on something. Kind of hard to say without, knowing. Not being there, basically. So what you want to do is you want to jack your vehicle up, get it supported. Your e-brake cable does run into the rear spindle, so you're going to need to remove your caliper, which I already have done, and then you're going to need to remove your rotor. And don't wait, there's more. We have a used cable right here. I didn't check to see if these were side specific, and we have a muffin coming through. There she is. She's coming to say hi. And you'll have to remove your brake rotor will have to be removed, and you got to take apart your e-brake assembly. So, also, the cable runs through the inside of the vehicle, so you'll have to remove the back seat, which it just pops right up. Okay, and then the cable comes through here and runs up through into the center console here. So we'll show you what we got there. All right, so you want to remove this, what you've seen. There's two screws, and there's some screws down there. I'm kind of using this as a tool bin. I got some other parts here that I'm going to be putting into the car, and right here is where your e-brake cables come in. All right, and it actually, by looking at this, it looks like the right side passenger is not a factory one because it's got the different end on. So it looks like it was already replaced. But you want to remove the center console. The brake is really tight. So basically, pull this up. Most of the time these come right up, and you lift this off. I'm going to use two hands to do that. And then, as I said, you can see the location of that. So let's get this out of the way. All right, so we have that removed. Now, this piece here, if you look at it, it comes down this way. It's actually got a larger hole on the bottom. So you can grab a hold of this with a pair of pliers or channel locks, or sometimes your hand, and you can actually flip this up and slide that cable out. Alright, so that's what you have to do to get this out. I slid a 13 down over this. It pushes these clips in. You can use a 1/2 inch most of the time. Also, 12-point or 6-point wrench usually works just perfectly fine. I never really tried like a ratchet wrench. You can also use a hose clamp to try to push around there. There's usually 3 pins. You can try to get them with a flathead screwdriver also. So basically all I did was compress them, grab hold of the cable, and then pull it out. Now we're going to go to the underside, and we're going to work on getting it disconnected down there. Alright, so right now where we are, we're actually looking at the car right in front of the rear wheel well. Alright, you can see where this cable goes. Up here where this cable goes, that's where this front trailing arm, right here that I'm grabbing hold of, bolts to. Now, they go in with a, what would be the best way to say that, like a stud bolt or a bolt nut or something like that, okay? So, they're actually, let me see if I got this, I think 15. So I have to get the right size because I grabbed an 18. But there's two 15mm nuts on this bracket, and I'll show you what they are here when I get the right tool. All right, we got the right size socket here now. Okay, I'm gonna tilt the camera here, show you where you're looking. Here's the cable. This is the side that goes up into the car. This is the side that goes to the spindle. Right here, these are 2 nuts. You can use whatever you got, hand tools, power tools. I have this nice little Craftsman impact, which seems to work quite well for the cost that was involved. So we're going to get these 2 nuts that hold this on here off. Alright, now we got those off. What I usually do is this has this rubber gasket here to keep well, moisture and water and everything else from getting into your car. I like to usually take flathead screwdriver. I usually like to try to help this through with the screwdriver, especially if it's one where you need to reuse it so you don't damage it. And then I'll take my other hand and I'll pull on the cable on the bottom. You can see it moving some down there. So this kind of helps it pull the rubber through at the same time. I don't know how this is going to be filming it, but basically that's what you got to do, and then you just kind of work on it. Eventually this comes loose, working your way around it here. Sometimes you can just use your fingers and you can work around it. Like that. But we're going to get this the rest of the way out because it's going to be a whole lot easier without the camera sitting here in the way. Alright, so we got it the rest of the way worked out. So we're just pulling it out the rest of the way. Here's our cable. That is actually the easy part. So now we're going to remove the rotor and get ready to actually disconnect it from inside there. I don't know how tight this is. Sometimes you can, if you hit here in between, it'll help break rust loose. Then you can kind of tap on this. I'm not sure how tight the Ebrake shoes are going to be. If you ever did drum brakes, sometimes they could get a lip on the inside, but we won't know here till we start removing this. I mean, the rotor doesn't look like it's that old, but like this car was actually sitting for a while and it wasn't used. There's a good bit of dust in here, so I'm guessing that the cable was actually maybe hanging up on this a little bit. It looks like this front shoe might have a little bit more wear than the back, but it does look like they were replaced at one time, because most of the time they're pretty bad. Now, you don't have to do this, but this is something that I like to do just because it makes everything easier and gives you a better access to get in there and actually get the stuff off. And that is popping these off. Sometimes these come off easy, sometimes they come off hard. If you take your time and you work your way around on these caps, usually you can get them off without damaging them, because they kind of seal the bearing and stuff from the outside weather so that it lasts longer. There we go. Like I said, this one was off before. Now there's a nut in here. I got to grab the right size socket, and then we're going to remove that, and then I'll show you what it looks like to take the hub off. Alright, so what I have here is a, see if you can see that, 1 13/16. And it doesn't fit quite well, but being it's a 6-point, I'm sure this is a metric size, which I don't have. And it's a 6-point, so it fits good enough and it's not going to hurt coming off. So here we go. Okay, That just pulls your nut off, and it's actually a nylon knock nut. You set that to the side. Now, the hub just kind of slides right off of there. It's weird that one wanted to come apart like that. It usually doesn't do that. Alright, well, without knowing how old it was or how long it was replaced, we'll just deal with it. If I put it back on, I'll have to get another one. Alright, now, you can see here that this is your e-brake assembly, alright? The best way to do this is going to be like this, is I take these pins, run through, I put my finger behind here, that way I hold the pin, and then I can actually get behind it and I can spin this. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. And then that just lets the clip come off. Set that to the side. Do the same on the other side. Sometimes if you do push on these, this one was actually, like I said, this has new shoes. You can tell they're usually way rustier than this. Sometimes when you push on this, this is actually, the pin's rusted to this, so then if without your finger back there, it actually pushes it through. See, that one's actually holding. So we'll get it broke loose. We'll come here and we'll spin this with our finger. We'll pull that clip off. Now, what this does is it allows the bottom to move, you can see, but it's still caught up here. So come in behind here with a pry bar or a screwdriver and just gently work this around. Now these are springs, so use caution. You can put your fingers in the wrong place and you can get your finger pinched, smashed, cut, sliced, bent, brown, whatever you want to call it. Alright. Since I'm trying to be nice with this, it's not working out for me. So, got that off of there. Now, in here you can see your cable. Alright, it's right here. This is the end of it. Now, it's bound up in here, so it's not letting it come out. So, basically on this issue, usually this will pull freely through. So here's our new one. See? I can pull freely on that and I can push it. And it'll do the same thing here because there's no tension on it. It actually has this spring bound up inside here. So I might end up having to cut this cable to be able to get that off. But what I'll do is I'll grab something and see if I can grab a hold of that and pull it out, just to try to show you how it comes out the way it should. Alright, so I was able to get on it with a pair of vice grips and I did get it twisted. So it does want to come out. And that's kind of what you need to do right there. Alright, so you have your assembly removed. Now you can put this all back on in one shot. Okay. So right now, I'll pop these off here. Right. And it's kind of the same deal as it was on the inside. You're gonna want to take this, slide it over the end of that. That's usually sticking out a whole lot farther. And usually you do this with two hands instead of one. Now there's this little bump here, so it kind of fights you getting the wrench back in, so you kind of got to come out with this, then you can push that back in. So here we go. Alright, now we're back in the hole and we're going to work the wrench on. Alright, now we're going to grab our cable, just kind of wiggle it. Any hope we can get this out of here. It's not really working so well. Alright. Okay, so I put a screwdriver and I'm kind of coming in. It's easier to do this way. So this is what's in there. So I have these compressed. So I have a screwdriver and I'm coming behind this. I'm just pushing it. It's probably seized a little bit from rust and the fact that it's had pressure on itself for so long. Alright. So there we go. You can see what that looks like compared to this with a free moving cable. Alright. So we'll work our way down through here. You can see our damage. No damage. All the way through. Alright? Out with the old, in with the new. So, we don't need the wrench anymore. So all you need to do is line this up with your hole. Slide it in, give it a push, it's locked in place. You can see how far out it sticks here now. Right, instead of trying to grab that with the finger, we'll grab it this way. Alright, and you can give this a tug. See how nice and easy that moves since it's not hooked up? Alright, now grab your assembly, and on the back, here's the little pull lever. That is notched right there. Just slide your cable over that, just like that. You can push it in, or you can come to the other end and you can give it a little pull, and that'll help hold it into place. Oh, you gotta be careful you don't knock your pins out. Okay, so now that we got that, we can give it a little bit of a tug as we're getting it slid back in here into place so we know it doesn't fall off. Now, so this is like this, and this is a spring on the top. You gotta work it in. Alright? Make sure you don't lose your cable out of your piece in there. Most of the time it stays in pretty good. Okay, so there's that. Now, as soon as we find our screwdriver, pry bar, same scenario here. Be careful. You can smash a finger. Fighting with this. So anyway, this is the joist. So now we're actually fighting that spring in there. Try to come off from the bottom. It's been a while, so you know, you might have to play with this a little bit to be able to figure out the best way that's going to work for you to get this assembly line back up in here. Alright, so I'm going to hold that like that. And I'm going to try to pry this back. And fail. Alright, so I'm going to mess with this. I'm going to turn the camera off. There's no sense in seeing this. I don't know how long this is going to take, but I'm going to work on trying to get this top part here with the spring over this bracket and lined up. That slid down in there where it's supposed to be. And then, still fighting with it. And you take your pins, if they fell out or you removed them for ease of work, you want to take them, you slide those over top. Usually I try to get these flat, and then I line this up the same way. And it's the same way as you took them off. Just kind of push on it, compress it, and then you can spin it in the back with your finger, and it's in. So we'll get our clip on this side, which I'm right-handed, so this is a little different for me. Going together just seems a little bit more complicated to push. Oh, it doesn't want to go on now. There we go. Alright, so that's twisted, that's in. And it is ready to go. Alright, so now all we got to do is you want to reinstall your hub. Wipe that off. You don't have dirt and dust in there. Okay. I was worried it might have had play, but it actually feels, I mean, it spins fine. No side to side play. Okay, there's that. I'm not sure if this is going to go on because it seems like that shoe's not wanting to seat right, which I might have to come back to and get at. Yeah, it seems like it's a little tight. So I'm going to have to double check that. Like I said, this car was sitting for a while. It could be in this lip of this rotor, you can see it's pretty thick. or it could be that it's adjusted out a little bit too far. So now we're going to get the cable on. First, I'm going to go clean my hands off because I'm going inside the car. Okay, now you remember we pulled the line out. All right, now here's one more thing I want to remind you. Okay, is you have this torsion bar here. See how this is on this side? This has to go to the back, because if you don't have this on the back side, it will rub your tire. Okay. All right, so we got that there. Now, when you have this done, up here is the hole. All right. You can actually see the light coming through it. So that's where we need to go with our cable. I like to stick my finger through it, and then I can get up in there and I can get the cable through. Just like this. Okay? And then when you get to the rubber, you can't really pull on just the cable, so you kind of got to grab the rubber like that, and then it'll pop up into place, okay? Because this does have a little bit of adjustment in it, that it slides through the rubber here, see? If you pull it too hard one way or the other. Now, we're going to get the bracket right here off this torsion bar arm back on. Almost lost a nut in there. Let's try this. It's kind of tight in there for room, so. And I can't really see it past the rocker. But we'll get that started. And then we'll come over here and we'll get it tightened up. Now that we're back inside, we have our cable. I'm going to lift up on the carpet a little bit, and then I'm going to push it through this hole here, and we're going to get it locked in. Okay, I don't know if you heard it click, but it popped right back in. Alright, now we got that. Get our cable into the hole, and then we'll get that spun down. And hopefully you've seen something in there. Looks like we're pretty tight on that other side, like there's nothing moving, so we might have to actually pull the other side off and do some inspection there. That's where we are. It looks like they're pretty much seated down in where they need to be, across the top. So the rotor should go on. Now if you do need to do any adjustment, there's an adjuster right here. There is also back here, there is an access hole, and it has a rubber grommet in it that you can pop out. You can use a flathead screwdriver, any brand, any style. Some of them, they do have a tool for adjusting drum brakes. They're usually dual-sided, but they are flat on the end. It looks like a mini crowbar. And it's bent on the end, kind of like my finger is, and then you can just stick it in there, and it just gives you better access when you're trying to come from behind to tighten it up. So let's see how this rotor fits on. That's a little tight. Shouldn't have to do that, but that has that rusted lip on there, and you can grind that off. You do want this to be able to spin freely. All right, and another good way to, if you actually want to adjust up your e-brake, would be to, if you have this spinning freely and you access through the rear hole with the caliper off, because the caliper will play with you a little bit. You run this just till this just starts feeling like it's tight with the e-brake handle down, and then that'll get your e-brakes adjusted up as tight as they possibly can, so that when you do use your e-brake handle, it will hold your vehicle. All right, so now we're at the point where we're just going to reassemble everything. I need to check. Oh, rear sliders need lubed, but that's for a different time. So we're going to get this on. Usually I like to get them started by touching in the middle, and then here's the screwdriver, punch, hit here, because if you hit in the middle too much, you can mushroom it out, and then it's going to be hitting the nut, and then it's just going to damage it, and it's not going to do its job the way that it needs to do. And sometimes when if you bend this edge out, you can actually flatten it back down, just like that. So that's pretty much how to stick on an e-brake cable on an srt4. This one here, this particular one is a 2003, and it's the solar yellow. So this is the project. I did do one other video on this, and I did want to get to it, but ended up taking on a big job, and I wasn't able to get to doing any work on this over the winter. So now I have the time, and we're going to get this thing on the road and have some fun with it.